For everyone in America, we should be telling the truth and shaming the devil. Something that 45 doesn't know how to do. 45 never told the truth, but he puts everyone to shame. Basically he basically makes us feel ashamed of what he does. So hit the like button and subscribe if you're interested in more content from me. For 45, the truth about white supremacy defiles the American heroes who practiced it. As 45 gave his race-baiting speeches over the 4th of July weekend, hoping to rail his trailer park and bread base and jumpstart his flagging campaign for re-election, the person that wrote this article said they were forced to recall the ranting of a Columbia University sophomore that caught the nation's attention in 2018. In the video, it was a student named Julian Von Abel, and he exclaims, "We built the modern world." When someone asks who, he responds, "Europeans." Von Abel goes on to say, "We invented science and industry, and you want to tell us to stop because, oh my god, we're so bad? We invented the modern world. We saved billions of people from starvation. We built modern civilization. White people were the best thing that ever happened to the world. We are so amazing." He says, "I love white people." He concludes, "I don't hate other white people." He's like, "I don't hate other people, I just love white men." Von Abel later apologized for going over the top, saying, "I emphasized that my reaction was not one of hate and arguing that his remarks are taken out of context. But the sentiments like the one that this young man expressed, that white men must be venerated regardless of their sins in spite of their sins, because they used maps, Bibles, and guns to change the world and thereby lifted it and saved it, aren't limited to one college student's regrettable video. They are the roots of white supremacist ideology." To people who believe in this theory, white men are the heroes in the history of the world. They conquered those who could be conquered. They enslaved those who could be enslaved. And their religion and philosophy, and sometimes even their pseudoscience, provided the rationale for their actions. It was hard not to hear the voice of Von Abel when 45 stood at the base of Mount Rushmore and said 1776 represented the culmination of thousands of years of Western civilization and the triumph not only of spirit but of wisdom, philosophy, and reason. He continued later, "Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children." To be clear, the R in that passage is white people, specifically white men. 45 was telling the white men that they are their ancestors and that they're now being attacked for that which they should be thanked. The ingratitude of it all. How dare historically oppressed minorities in this country recall the transgressions of their oppressors? How dare they demand that the whole truth be told? How dare they withhold their adoration of the abominable? At another point, 45 said of recent protests, he basically claims that the Democrats are the ones doing all this, which not really. That he goes on to say that the left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. In doing so, they would destroy the very civilization that rescued billions from poverty, disease, violence, and hunger, and that lifted humanity to new heights of achievement, discovery, and progress. In fact, many of the protesters are simply pointing out the hypocrisy of these men, including many of the founders who fought for freedom and liberty from the British while simultaneously enslaving the African Americans and slaughtering the indigenous. But 45, like every white supremacy person itself, rejects the inclusion of this context. As 45 put it, "Against every law of society and nature, our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes but that were villains. The radical view of American history is a web of lies. All perspective is removed, every virtue is obscured, every motive is twisted, every fact is distorted, and every flaw is magnified until the history is purged and the record is disfigured beyond all recognition. And in fact, the record is not being disfigured but corrected." According to 45, this movement is openly attacking the legacies of every person on Mount Rushmore. They defile the memory of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. Is it a defilement to point out that George Washington was an enslaver who signed a Fugitive Slave Act and only freed his slaves in his will after he was dead and no longer had earthly use for them? Is it a defilement to point out that Thomas Jefferson enslaved over 600 human beings during his life, many when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and that he had sex with a child the child whom he enslaved? I call it rape and even enslaved the children she bore for him. Is it a defilement to recall that during the Lincoln-Douglas debates, Abraham Lincoln said, "I have no purpose to introduce political and social equality between the white and the black races. There is a physical difference between the two, which, in my judgment, will probably forever forbid their living together upon the footing of perfect equality. And in as much as if it becomes a necessity that there must be a difference, I, as well as Judge Douglas, am in favor of the race to which I belong having the superior position." Is it a defilement to recall that Theodore Roosevelt was a white supremacist supporter of eugenics and an imperialist. As Gary Gerstle, a professor of American history at the University of Cambridge, once put it, he would have had no patience with the indigenous and original inhabitants of a sacred American space interfering with his conception of the American sublime. It is not a development, but deprogramming. It is a telling of the truth, and the time for it is wrong, long overdue. As the old folks used to put it, tell the truth and shame the fucking devil.